So welcome and thank you all for participating in our first art talk of this series. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Evanston Arts Center, which is an artistic hub on the North Shore, has been there for over 90 years, believes that some communities are all too rarely represented in the curatorial world. To address this situation, the Evanston Arts Center has developed a recurrent project-based position for a curator of color with ties to the Evanston community to develop an exhibition of their choosing. It is the Evanston Arts Center's intent that such an exhibit will both build new ties to historical underrepresented groups, as well as introduce Evanston and the greater Chicago area to new curatorial and artistic perspectives. Myself and Adero artistic vision entails an intergenerational curatorial practice that seeks to provide a model for emerging and established curators to innovate in curating inclusive experience, gain practical curating experiences, and critical reflect on how their curatorial style will imprint on the Evanston community and the world. In 4 exhibitions, or actually 4 artist talks, we will have an exhibition of each of the artists and how you examine the state of your environment in society through the themes of racism, spirituality, documentation, and art as wellness. Myself, as a co-curator, I have formal training in art administration, art education, art gallery management, studio art, and I always say that first, because we always talk about our education and our platform and where we come to our intersection. And so that's out the way. So me as an artist and curator, I have a curatorial practice, and I say practice, and is the Phantom Galleries, and which are temporary exhibitions in non-traditional gallery settings. I am also a co-author and researcher for Pop-Up Research Station and Creative Conversation, a project that is a portal where curators nationally share knowledge and resources of best practices, ongoing professional development, and is a place for moral support to enhance our collective impact while staging pop-up exhibitions. My co-host and co-curator, Adero Knott, which she'll talk about herself, but I'm going to introduce her briefly, is her pronouns, she, her, is an emerging curator who debuted at MCA Chicago, curating disability and perspectives, one of 4 exhibitions belonging to the Commons Artist Project of Norman T. and Flo Wilson, Black House Studios. Adero is a prosthetic designer and founder of AK Prosthetics and an adaptive tech startup on a mission to make custom prosthetics and adaptive wearables accessible and inclusive. Adero has been featured in Forbes, Chicago Sun-Times, America Inu, and her innovative work in the community of Chicago. Welcome.
Yes, welcome. All right, so we have 2 guests here today with us. We have and just so you all know, we are applying the intergenerational approach to our curatorial fellowship with the Evanston Arts Center, with Alpha representing the established curator and myself as the emerging curator. And so with our art talks, we are also applying that approach as well. We think it's very important to have different perspectives, diverse perspectives, and intersectional perspectives. And we want to basically have those 2 ends come merge together and meet at the middle. So today, for our established artists, for our documentation segment, we have Sandra Steinbrecher, and for our emerging artists, we have LaKesha Howard-Williams. Thank you both for joining us today. And so I would like to start with Sandra Steinbrecher's bio. She is a Chicago-based documentary photographer working on long-term assignments about public education, public art, and community development. She is committed to building meaningful relationships with partners and telling nuanced stories. Most recently, Sandra's work was included in the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery's exhibition, the Outwin 2019 American Portraiture Today, a highly competitive group exhibition. Her work has been shown at various galleries, at the Chicago Cultural Center, and featured in the CNN docuseries Chicagoland. Sandra is also a silver gelatin master printer, and along with colleague Ron Gordon, made the exhibition prints from original negatives for one of the collectors of Vivian Meyer's acclaimed historic images. You can reach Sandra at her website at sandrasteinbrecher.com or on Instagram at Sandy Steinbrecher Photography. Next, we have LaKesha Howard-Williams. She is a queer African-American aspiring artist and educator based in Chicago, Illinois. Her 11 years in photography is centered on documentary and image making through digital and analog practice. LaKesha's work focuses on identity, culture, and traditions, webbed through analyzing, then dismantling Black trauma. A graduate of Columbia College, Chicago, she now works as a production assistant and photographer throughout the Chicagoland area. All right, thank you both so much for being here with us today. All right, so to get started, I want to ask you both, how do you identify and how is your identity expressed in your work? Sandra, would you like to start us off?
Thank you so much, Adero and Alpha, for inviting us to talk about documentary photography. And I'm excited to hear LaKesha's story and see her work. I identify basically as female, a mother, and a photographer. I am Jewish. I was raised in Hyde Park, and I have really strong ties to the South Side through growing up there and also through my family history. I naturally gravitated towards documentary and narrative photography as I found that imagery to be the most inspiring and moving. It's an opportunity to learn, to listen, and to really see. I'm interested in the beauty of everyday life, the stories of ordinary people, and the extraordinary impact that one person can have. Art and photographs have the power to connect people in really unique, exceptional ways. So I feel like I have a responsibility to make some type of contribution, and photography is my way of contributing.
Wonderful, thank you. LaKesha?
Alrighty. I am a woman, queer, African-American, and I come from the South Side of Chicago. I am a cat mom, if that counts. So I do take care of a cute little cat named Mooney that's hiding somewhere. Basically, I started in photography by deciding one day in high school that I no longer wanted to be a atmospheric scientist. I didn't want to go into being a scientist anymore. So I wanted to incorporate art and science. And I remember someone telling me cinematography, and I said no. So I chose a camera. And I decided that I wanted to do from the very rooty part. I always was a huge fan of history. So I decided that I wanted to start from the very beginning, which was analog photography. I had some relatives from a church give me some old film cameras, and they didn't work. So I went back to digital, and I went half first into it. The first photograph I ever took was family members at a funeral while they were processing their emotions on the couch of the deceased relative. And it was just the beginning of years upon years of trying to understand the meaning, strategies, and practice of photography itself. My work itself, I finally come to the acceptance and conclusion that it is a lot of processing many portions of my life, many portions of what it means to be Black, whether it trickles out of the Black community. I started focusing only on the Black community and focusing only on friends and family, just trying to find ways to be creative. And yeah, it's just that started from there. And a lot of it is documentary based, a lot of it is portraiture based, and now it has slowly transitioned to being image making. And when I call myself an image maker, I mostly construct conceptual ideas based on my experiences or someone else's experience within friends or family or in the neighborhood. And I create a narrative out of that, which I'll be showing soon.
Yes. Yes. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, Alpha.
So great. I'm really anxious to see your stories as you share them with us. But one of the questions I wanted to ask you are, what are some ways you as artists examine the state of our environment through your portraiture and documentation of the human condition? LaKesha?
What are some ways? All right. It's always, I guess it's me constantly asking, it's the outsider perspective and also the insider perspective. The first questions is, well, why am I concerned with it? Why am I guess, obsessed with these ideas or what's happening in my life? The second one is, well, how can I present it through the lens? And for me, it's constantly asking myself, well, what really matters? What is really important? Is also what I learned in school, which is, well, why do you want to focus on this type of subject matter in general? As an artist, I keep pushing myself to just photograph in reality, just something, and come back to it in a timely manner, and constantly try to see what I need to do better, and trying to present someone's story or trying to present an idea. Yeah.
So Sandy, can you provide us with a brief answer?
I had sort of prepared my presentation to go with that answer. Is that okay? I know LaKesha's going to go do her presentation.
Oh, it's no problem. No special order. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we can go ahead and start with your presentation, Sandy. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right, there you go.
Okay. Okay, are we good with that?
Yes.
Great. So I'd like to show some of the work I've done over, I'd say about the last decade or so, and how I've been drawn to depicting and telling stories about the issues that are important to me, social justice issues of education and the arts and communities. So I really started my documentary photography work in Chicago Public Schools. In 2008, I was given an opportunity to document education reform and daily life at Harper High School. Over the next few years, I went to Fenger High School, which is this school, and also Marshall High School. And later, I photographed life at Roosevelt High School and some elementary schools as well. These schools were on all, at each end of the city, the far south, the south sides, the west and northwest sides. And so the assignment was to document the journey, the unique challenges and successes of the students and the teachers and the staff at each school. I had to really learn to observe, to listen, and to be ready to capture moments. There was tremendous energy. There were highs and lows. And in the midst, of many challenges, I saw extraordinary efforts by educators and by students themselves and all kinds of staff members, security people, to improve the outcomes and to make life better. The people were really invested in finding solutions. They cared. And of course, there was, a vibrant and a joyful student life in each school that I was at. I felt it was important to bring these positive stories to life and to portray school life respectfully and realistically. And I started creating portraits to accomplish this as well.
What was it like for you to take these photos? Like, did it feel like how we see on, like TV with, like celebrity life and following people around? Or did it seem more like authentic? Like how did the students take to you being in their environment? Especially, did you feel foreign in the environment? Did you feel a part of the environment? Like what was your experience like? And how did they experience you?
I think it's a great question because I was an outsider at first. I'm older and I was white in a predominantly African American school, but you know what? I kept showing up. I was there, let's say couple days a week, and I kept going to things, and I learned to be kind of invisible, that after a while that people just stopped paying attention to me, and saw that I was a part of the environment. And I think it, just in life, like everything takes time, and I really learned a lot about observing and stepping back and listening and kind of being ready and really trying to see what the story was about. And so I learned to really love being in schools. Absolutely loved it. And this is a really small portion of the school work that I did.
Yes.
And I just wanted to talk about this photo for a minute. And so I realized while I was in school that so many young people were finding their voices and finding their power, and they were activists. And this young woman was a Chicago Public School student, and she was instrumental in creating a student coalition that was opposing school closings. I think that was back in 2013. And here she is, just fully invested in her own education and her future, while also speaking up for others. And I remember one of her quotes, because I would interview people too when I was there. And she said, "Each school is my school. Each future is my future." There was a sense of, just over and over again, I saw a sense of caring, and people taking care of each other. And that is a recurring theme in my work, I think. Like you saw, there's people, hugging each other and touching each other, and there's a sense of connecting and caring. I really seem to be drawn to that. Oops.
Definitely. I have one more question,
And,
unless Alfred did you
mhm.
want to ask a question. Okay. Yeah, so Sandy, I had a question. So I understand that, the work that you were showing us today was really about like the school closings that have happened in Chicago and are continuing to happen. Why is it important for you to document, these things that are happening, this type of disinvestment, the type of devaluing that is happening in, these Chicago neighborhoods? Why is this important to, represent in your work today?
Well, I think that public education is one of the indicators of a democratic society and a fair society. And we know things aren't fair. And the more you show, the more you see, the more you illuminate, hopefully it will move over and make room for more people to have a voice. And if you don't know, you can't do something about it. And I don't know, exactly what changes, but I do really want people to know that there's incredibly good work going on all over the city. And what I saw in schools was important to me to portray and to show. And that's what I hope would come through in the photography. And, you always want people to feel something in looking at art or photography. But I really do hope that that comes through. And it is important. It's valuable,
Yes, most definitely. Thank you. And also congratulations again on being, with your work being submitted and admitted into the Smithsonian.
Thank you. It's a huge, huge, it's a huge honor. And that's this photograph that I'm going to talk about for a few minutes because it represents something kind of different or just evolution in the kind of way I began to work.
Mhm.
Oops.
I think, Sandra, that was one of my questions because I got your email where you shared this project and you were able to track down the young people that posed for this. So if you could, I know you're going to talk about that, but how were you able to, track them down and share this moment with them?
Yeah. So that is the story. So I took this photograph at the March for Our Lives rally in Chicago back in 2018. I'd been photographing in public schools for several years and always following the stories of young people. And I'd seen the impact of students lost to gun violence in the schools where I was and just the staggering, devastating numbers of shootings and deaths in Chicago and all around the country, really. And the Parkland student survivors kind of inspired and demanded that we address this issue on a national and international stage. There were over 800 marches that day, all around the country and all around the world. I felt compelled to attend. I went as a mother, as a human being, and also as a photographer. The rally was very moving. There were so many kinds of people there, doctors and grandparents and mothers and fathers and teen couples, and just everyone was there. Young people were completely in charge. All of these rallies were directed by them and organized by them. And so when I looked at the photos later that day, this one really touched me. After photographing people in the crowd, I went directly to the front of the march and I saw just, lines of young people just looking very determined and ready to take control of their future. And I was just moving through the crowd, and then one young man looked directly at me when I shot this frame, and I actually felt something during the taking in that fraction of a second. The photograph that I made in that, nanosecond really just really struck me. I saw so many emotions in their faces. There seems to be so much history and so much promise for the future. So as you mentioned, it was included in the exhibition at the National Portrait Gallery in DC. And there were, over 2,600 entries, and they selected 46 artworks, painting, photography, sculpture, all those things. So it was, this tremendous honor. And it was just such a display of activism, you know, by young people for all of us. And really young people have been leaders and the motivation and organizers behind so many of our movements, you know, for Black Lives Matter, for LGBTQ rights, for immigration. They're just, you know, out there doing it. And so there's a few of the photos I included from the rally. Just the emotional nature of it kind of really came through in these photos. So I had looked at the image many times, and I really wondered who they were. So I considered my responsibility. I felt I had been given this honor, and I really wanted to share it with them. So, you know, the photograph was going to be hanging on a wall in a very esteemed museum with US presidential portraits, the beautiful Obama paintings, and change makers of all kinds. And so I wanted them to see that they belong there and that they had power to influence their world. So I stepped up my efforts and I used some simple clues in the photo and tried to find them. And after several months and dead ends, I finally found them. It was very exciting. And so it's Arlene, Alhaji, and Jasmine. They were 3 high school seniors at a Chicago public school. So after starting a GoFundMe, we raised the money to take them to DC to see their portrait. And we had this fantastic trip planned. They were so overwhelmed that people had donated money to them, and so they could go and do this. But sadly, the pandemic and the global shutdown canceled the trip, which was scheduled 2 weeks from after the shutdown in March of 2020. But on a positive note, we began to stay in touch through monthly Zoom calls. It sort of happened organically. I was concerned about them and just asked if they wanted to talk, and we started talking. And so this kind of unexpected but very natural friendship began. And in June, I went to each of their homes and I photographed them in their graduation caps and gowns with their families, and you know, to mark graduation since they had missed so much. And I also made sure that I captured the historic day of their first vote in a presidential election. So the series of events, which Alpha is referred to in, you know, finding the students, really pushed me to examine and question my photography practice, and to really consider my responsibilities, and just to dig deeper into how I was seeing and representing people. I really thought a lot about how this photograph happened and how it came to be, what state I was in to be able to take this kind of photograph, what happened on their end, even though they didn't remember it at all. They didn't pose for me, they were just there. But something happened, some kind of a collaboration happened, which is the basis of portraiture, right? You know, where you can't really do it alone. So this has been a whole journey of a couple years of having the story keep going forward. It's been such a gift. So for my, unless you have questions, I have another section.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. So documentary photography tells the stories of real people. You know, it can illuminate disparities, challenges, successes. It can preserve memories, capture quiet moments, and bring people together with a shared vision. So I've always wanted to celebrate the efforts of public artists, of all kinds of artists, educators, activists, and young people who are committed to transforming their communities. I wanted to show that these efforts are valuable and necessary, not only for the success of each community, but for our entire city. And so no matter how small these projects or contributions seem, they're really important. You never know the impact that they can have. So I've had the opportunity to collaborate and document several fantastic projects. Public art in the Wabash Arts Corridor in the South Loop, the Burnham Wildlife Corridor on the Chicago South Lakefront, and you can see Norman and Teague and Fo Wilson here with their project Sounding Bronzeville, and the repurposing of former Anthony Overton Elementary School, and then initiatives for Emerald South Collaborative all around the Mid-South Side. So the year 2020 was unprecedented, of course. There was so much to capture: responses to community needs, protests for justice and solidarity, and just community work of all kinds. Long-term narrative projects and portraits can really capture the efforts and processes of artists and activists over time, though, not just in one session. It really takes a nuanced and complex set of circumstances to create or build something. So it makes sense that it would take time to record and photograph the work in progress. And that's why I feel the work in progress is always really important. I'm really genuinely inspired and energized by what people do and how they care for each other. I'm inspired by young people. And my goal is to show what kind of impact people are having in their communities, what it takes to do it, and how I can help amplify their voices, and just bring their stories to life.
That's beautiful. I had shared a couple of tears. I was just so moved. Especially when you shared the moment of, with the children that were depicted in this Smithsonian portrait. So yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. We appreciate you, Sandy.
Thank you. I appreciate you listening and looking at my work. Really, to have the opportunity to share it is beautiful. So thank you.
Yes. Okay. All right, Keisha.
Thank you, Sandra. As we change over to screen sharing, that was great. I had kind of wanted to go back on a couple of those slides, but
I can do that.
No, that's okay, because we're gonna. Okay, it was the one where they were constructing these small houses.
Yes.
And that's the prototype, one of the first prototypes that's there in that photograph. I think I saw that in the newspaper.
Yeah, just one guy who's a builder decided he'd been seeing more people as sleeping on the street, and he decided he wanted to use his skills to so he did a prototype for a tiny house for homeless people, and did it at Overton, just in the back area there. And I think he was going to build another one, and he was starting a GoFundMe or some kind of process to try to get some people behind the project. But it was wonderful. I photographed him for a few weeks as he built it.
Okay, great, because some of those are opening up in some of the other cities, those prototypes,
Yes.
kind of skid row areas to kind of address this whole issue of homelessness.
I think it's going to eventually make it here. I mean, because I am seeing it successfully done in other cities, and they're getting good, kind of feedback from that.
Well, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing, and I'm really glad that we're like doing this whole creative capital with each other and spinning the spears and working together, and also looking again at this intergenerational approach to the work that you do in the field, that we do in the field. Thank you.
Thank you.
LaKesha.
All right, Sandra, I think we bumped into each other at the Bronzeville protesting from last year. I was
Yeah.
photographing there as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I recognized some of the organizers from the protest, so that was pretty
That,
amazing.
oh, the faith protests, that
Mhm,
one?
mhm.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
All right, I guess I will share my lovely screen. Let's see. Hmm.
So while you're getting ready for the screen share, what I'll do is I'll reintroduce the question.
Yeah.
So what are some ways you as artists examine the state of your environment through your portraiture and documentation of the human condition?
Okay. I'm sorry, there's a little bit of a tag. It's asking me to quit the screen, quit Zoom in order to share the screen. Right, it's asking me to leave the meeting. So let's try that one more time. Later. It's a little bit weird. Okay, there we go. Thanks. All right. Can you guys see?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So I guess I'll start with the conceptual part. Let's see. So this is the Black Woman series, kind of like a chapter series. So this is Black Woman 1, chapter 1, Tina. She's your mother, your auntie, your sister, your best friend, the woman in the family. It's kind of a personal diary. It's a reflection on what I wanted my mother to be while also incorporating her stories. So it's heavily influenced by my actual biological mother. She wasn't able to be the mother that you agree to be when you have a child. She had a lot of personal trauma. She functioned more as a survivor than actually a good relative or a supportive relative or a good mother in general. So with that being said, listening to all the stories she told me since I was a little girl, I decided to incorporate her into the project and create something based on my trauma of not having a full figure mother in the picture of my life. And yeah, so with answering the question, basically I was examining something very personal, something very traumatic in many ways, some minor, some big. And I was trying to create something that could heal the pain that was created, the dysfunctionality that existed between my mother and I. And it came out to be in this as the first stage of the project.
Keisha, could you expand the photo, please?
Yeah.
And could you describe it? And this is a photo of you, right? You're in these photos, correct?
So the idea was that I become a different character. So yes, it is me incorporating the images. How big is it on your side of the photos?
It's
Is it
very
pretty
small.
small?
Yeah.
Very
Can you just
small. Got it.
maximize it so we just see one photo for the screen?
Yeah, let's see if this will work better. Give me one moment. Let's see. Any better? I feel like this might be the actual smaller files.
Okay.
Let me do something real fast.
Okay.
My apologies.
Oh, no worries at all. Yeah, this is just such an impactful series, and especially how personal it is. And I just really want to make sure that we can all see it.
Yeah. Give me one moment. I'm gonna unshare myself for a moment
Okay, no problem.
and figure out why all of the images are all of a sudden small.
Okay.
My apologies.
No problem.
Let's see. Um,
Do you have any questions?
yeah, do you guys have any questions?
Oh, Alpha, you gotta mute yourself.
I mute myself because of the ambient sounds. I'm here on 47th Street in Brownsville, and I don't want the traffic or the sirens because that's part of our environment, but so I keep myself on mute. But I think the question I was going to ask you, as I said earlier, I had pulled up your the work you started while you were at Malcolm X College,
Yes.
and that kind of like was laid I guess some of the groundwork for your activism
Mm-hmm.
work, and you can kind of describe that while you're enlarging your images.
So you stated the Malcolm X College.
Is that Malcolm X? You were at the community college here.
Oh, for the defense, student
Yes.
defense. So it was actually it was a university. I'll quote it like that because it was a very complicated statement of what the school actually was. So basically, I originally was supposed to graduate from it's been so long since I've said the school's name, the Illinois Institute of Art. I was finally on my senior year of officializing everything, getting ready to do my senior thesis, and we received the obscure letter stating that we were a candidacy for accreditation through the institution, and that we could still take our loans and we could still go to school, blah, blah, blah. Everything about the whole entire statement from the new president just sounded suspicious. Did some research and found out that we had lost our accreditation 6 months ago. And they refuse, and when I say they, I mean the business factor of the institution and possibly some of the faculty members on a higher level refuse to inform the students and teachers that our accreditation had been removed 6 months prior. So it became a whole entire crap show because we lost almost 2.5 semesters of funding for our educations, but also we lost credits, we lost our grades, we lost everything. Everything became a mushy, undervalued idea of our education. And coincidentally, at the same time that we were finding out about this, they were trying to make it seem like it was not a big deal, but in reality, they were slowly shutting down the schools at the same time throughout the whole entire US land. So basically, it was a for-profit institution, and when the accreditation was removed from whoever the accreditors were for each state, they decided that slowly it was not worth keeping the school, they'll shut it down. Coincidentally, 6 months later, I think our school was shut down. Actually, we were informed like less than 2 months after finding out about the accreditation that our school was definitely going to be shut down and that they were going to have us give an option for teach out or transferring to another school. It was a horrendous incident because we were frauded, and I was one of many students that came together to inform our colleagues, to try to educate our colleagues, but also to take legal action on what happened. And so a friend of a friend introduced me to one of the lawyers that was part of the defense documentary. And basically sorry, I'm going to try to do this one more time.
Yeah.
The images, let's remove that. Let's see if I can open it with preview. Basically, they were helping us in reality to try to get some retribution for what happened to us. We also found out it was just a lot of information and bad practices, false marketing that was done and committed towards the students. And I had to remember to incorporate myself into it because I was heavily affected as well by it. We were screwed over. We lost a lot of money. We lost a lot of funding from financial aid that was supposed to help us ensure that we graduate, but also ensure that we get a job in the end. And it was horrible. And the lawyer that I did a consultation with, he connected me with Alex Chavana, who was one of the directors of the documentary itself. And it just went from there. I participated in interviews and documentaries, and every once in a while I hear more information about what the updates are, if they're actually going to do something about it. It was a very unique, somewhat painful experience. It did get me to the place that I needed to be, which was Columbia College, because I don't think I really was fully secure with myself on understanding myself as an artist and partial business person, but it helped a lot in the end. So it was a win-lose situation. And the end result of the defense of finding out the truth about the management programs and whatsoever. It's a very long story. It takes.
But there was $11 million that were canceled and refunded as a result of your activism.
Yeah.
And I think that the arts, and even though this was a school of the art, not the school of the art, but the school that was, that it's a very powerful statement for you, to be as you're going to school to do your art and your art practice, and you wind up being this very powerful voice, in activism to make a wrong a right.
Yeah.
And when I saw this article here about you and the 11 million canceled and reduced, in loans that they basically forced you to take out just to attend there, I congratulate you on your work that you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. I don't even think about that because it is a huge effect of me and friends and also associates from the institutions did to get I don't know for sure to say revenge. I guess revenge is the first statement because we were so angry by what happened to us, but also to get the little justice. We're still searching for justice. 11 million is just a start because for-profit institutions are still being created till this day. There are still institutions that are using loopholes, legal educational loopholes, to get away with, excuse my language, but the bullshit that they're pulling because our country has allowed it. Our governors, our mayors, our politicians have allowed that for years and years and years. And that's because that was the reason why I participated. It was because, sorry, my alarm. I participated, I did my portion of participation because learning the history in that process and seeing how complicit or minor people were trying to put it as at that time, it was very frustrating. African American students were targeted by it, people of color were targeted by it, veterans were targeted by these predatory institutions. And that's why I participated, that's why I was frustrated, and that's why I said it's only just the beginning because they are still getting away with it to this day. They're not getting the slap on the wrist that we want to see. But yeah, it's a start. I definitely want more reforms, revolutions to happen with what happened in education.
Well, thank you for your voice and that advocacy work that you're doing. I'm very proud of you. I'm just very proud of you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. All right, let's see if the loading will stop and I can present the images properly. All right. Let's see.
You're muted.
Great, it looks good.
Okay, perfect.
Adero is muted.
Oh, thank you.
I missed what you said.
Yeah, I was saying, Keisha, if you can describe the images, give us like an image description. I just want to make sure we're being mindful of accessibility needs, in case
Yes.
we have, yes. So you just describe what we're looking at.
Thank you for that very important reminder. So right now you're looking at Tina. She's in her living room, technically a little bit like the dining room. It's a mixed room. There's a mirror on the back and she's posed in front of a bright light, looking directly at the camera in a nice beige dress, some brown boots, and she's composed. She's trying to look presentable, very serious in the image itself. This is the first start of the project. I always have very funny stories or weird, crazy scenarios that happen of how I end up creating a project or how I end up transitioning a project. And so I was originally photographing my mom for the project, and midway through the semester, she pretty much cracked under pressure, and she said no more. And I freaked out. I didn't know what to do. And so I was telling my professor about it, and I think I was telling him about the idea. And I said, I have been writing some ideas about images that I wanted to do based on the stories my mom has been telling me. And he said, just effing do it, LaKesha, just effing do it, get it done. And so I had I want to say maybe less than a month and a half to get the project done. So I was scrambling with the first stages of the image ideas that I was creating based on my mom, based on what I wanted as well as my mom to look like. My mom doesn't have hair. So I was like, maybe she'll have hair. And that statement itself that I just said also incorporates a stigma that exists of trying to have long curly hair, which is incorporated in systematic oppression of Black women's identity. And I wanted to create something super mature and presentable of a Black woman while also explaining the idea that this is what society is forcing Black women to look like when they already look fine, they already act fine. And if they don't, it's because of racism, is it because of oppression, it's because of sexism and patriarchal standards that's pressed on. So with that being said, that's the first image. I tried to incorporate a little bit of children too. So you get to see a cute little child named Jordan. He's my nephew in the image. And what you see is a young boy awkwardly presenting himself while photographing with his mom in the same dress, the same beige dress, and they're trying to keep their composure of being serious, looking like a nice, innocent looking family. And so the process that I came up with of creating it is I really want to challenge myself to do storytelling within images. So I created several different scenarios. Some worked out, some didn't. I created scenarios where Tina was just hanging out. The image you see right now is Tina in a Canadian tuxedo, which is jean on top of jean. And she's in the front porch having a drink with friends, and a friend decided to capture her being goofy and raunchy and drinking a light beer throughout the night. She's having a relaxing night on the front porch.
Why
And
did
then each, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, why is it important for you to show like this carefreeness of Tina, of this like the desirable mother figure that you wish to have? Why is it important to show her like this carefree spirit, to depict her in this way as well, outside of just the seriousness and the composed?
You know, it's really funny because this is actually the aspect of her as carefree. Tina, my mom, I grew up looking, she has a lot of, I come from a very hoarding family, so we have a lot of things laying around. A lot has been thrown away or lost, but my mom always kept the photo albums she had growing up. And so part of the stories was also seeing the images as well. And a lot of the images I saw of my mom of her growing up as a teenager and as a young adult was her just kicking it with friends, kicking it with family predominantly. They were always hanging around either in the basement, on the front lawn, on in Las Vegas. There's a lot of images of them. Apparently they used to travel a lot as a family to Las Vegas and hang out there when it was super accessible. So presenting this is an ode to my mom while also presenting a non-toxic perspective, because part of the images that my mom showed me, my sister, my brother, but also had collected incorporates drama and traumatic experiences for her as well, which made her to be in survivor mode most of her life. Um, my mom always said that her being a dark-skinned woman in the 50s and 60s made her be a sore eye, an unintentional sore eye. So although she had a fun young life, she also had a very traumatizing young life because of racism, because of anti-Blackness, because of internalized pain created by other people. And in the transition of the images, you just see Tina roaming around on the front porch while she finished up her beer and talking craps with whoever's taking the photos.
You did a really good job with kept capturing like this retro vibe.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And so the next two images you see is Tina hanging out in a garage next to a car. She's wearing a bright red spaghetti strap t-shirt with no bra on, and she has her flannel blue jeans on and has some sunglasses on, and the sun is showing off the complexity of her melanated skin. The next image is the same clothing, and now Tina is observing what's going on in the alley. Apparently she might have heard something. This idea in the scenario is that she heard something and she's now observing to see what's going on in her neighborhood. This is another image of Tina where you see her now, she doesn't have her hair upkeep. She decided to wrap it up. She's wearing a very muted but vibrant type of head wrap on her head. She has a purple flowy shirt on and she's just menacing the neighborhood with her look while observing what's going on in the front yard. Now, it's a cloudy day, so the sun is not fully approachable to her skin and to her face, but the brightness of the light and the sun that's covered by the clouds is showing her facial expression. Transitioning back to the very beginning of the images, Tina is at that stage where she's a mom. And so she's prepping dinner, and of course, someone wants to take a photograph of her when she's not in the mood. And she's taking a cigarette break before she finished chopping up onions at the kitchen table. The person behind the camera unintentionally took a non-focused image, and it's intentional for this way because I want to emphasize the idea of someone just taking photos of their mom or their sister or aunt during an average day. This was a huge challenging project because I was trying to really challenge myself to see how far I could go with making something nostalgic but also sort of historical in a way. Tina is wearing the same beige dress, and she's now slowly transitioning out to being a cooker and now relaxing on the couch. And she has a cute little dog, a little munchkin dog in her lap, and she's cracking a joke towards the cameraman or camera woman that's photographing her. It's now time for her to relax and go to bed. What you see in the image is her listening to the person at the door try to observe and talk to her, but in reality, she just wants to go to bed. She's wearing a spaghetti strap red shirt again, and she has undergarments on under it, and she has her hair wrapped up in another head wrap, but it's a cheetah print type of wrap, and she just wants to go to bed. She's tired. This is absolutely one of my favorite images that I photograph of myself because it's definitely an ode, but also an observation of the Black woman when they finally relax, when they finally tone down for the day, and something's always bothering them. Something's always asking them to do something or ask them for their opinion whatsoever. And it's just like, give us a break, give us a moment to breathe. And this is that moment where she just want to take a breather, but something is bothering her once again. Right now you see her back in the kitchen. It's more of a close-up shot, and you see her taking another cigarette break. I emphasize Tina being a cigarette smoker because obviously my mom is a cigarette smoker. So I took up the challenge of observing a heavy smoker, a chain smoker that is constantly finding ways to take a cigarette break any way possible. And so she's having a coffee, and she took off her glasses and she ate something. She's just like, crap, I need a cigarette to just breathe, to just let everything
Why,
go.
in your photography, you're positioning things, I know. So why position the coffee cup with Marilyn Monroe? Is that intentional?
It was not intentional, actually. But it's really funny that you say the Marilyn Monroe, because Marilyn Monroe is she's a niche for woman identity, for femininity, for a specific time. And ironically so, people still are obsessed with her because she seems like she is a victim to patriarchy. She's a victim to the patriarchal standards that has been presented on women, but she's the complete opposite of a victim because she is a white woman. So having Marilyn Monroe is a happy accident within the Black Woman series, because now you have little bits of ironies or comparisons that exist within understanding and observing a Black woman's life. I think that is all for this one. I'll transition over to the next set of images. Give me one moment.
That's an incredible project, by the way.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Let's see.
While you're gathering that, I wanted to ask, was this series therapeutic for you? Because I mean, I've never seen any photographer or artist do something like this. It's very personal. It's very vulnerable, and like, and I have more backstory to, like, your mom and you, and in your life, and also it's similar to my own story with my mother. So like I understand. How therapeutic was this for you, and did it heal you, or do you feel like it helped heal you from your childhood?
It's a very hard, it's a very tricky way to answer it, because it did heal me, but it created a craving to do more with the project, to find more alternatives to understand it. I think one of the critiques that I received through that project was, why are you obsessed with trauma? Why are you obsessed with understanding pain? And it's because I was taught to repress pain, to suppress it so much in my life that it finally became a ticking bomb. And whenever the right button was pushed, it exploded, and it was just a downward spiral for me. So doing this in a healthy form is therapeutic. However, I'm still craving to find more ways to heal from that type of pain that I experienced as the daughter of Tina, as the real Tina, because it's related. I tried to make it not just about me, because I didn't want to feel a little bit of a narcissist. I wanted to make it correlatable to all the young Black women and other women that have experienced moms that cannot actually do their job, but they gave us life, but they couldn't do the responsibilities that they were supposed to do while also giving us life. So yeah, it's therapeutic, and I hope that one day it's therapeutic for other people when they see the project, that it's just not, oh, I'm very find it fascinating, or what I've heard a couple of times, nice, from people. I want it to be a huge statement where they can sit there and say, I needed this. I needed to understand what it means to hope for something, but don't have it. So I created a fantasy. I created a fantasy based off truths. So yeah, it's therapeutic in a small factor. So I'll
Thank
go
you.
ahead and
Definitely
get
need
started.
that.
Say that again.
I said, thank you. We definitely, need work like this. I definitely did. Cause like I have that same upbringing with my own mother. So I understand, and it's very touching.
Well, I'm happy it helped you a lot. So thank you.
Mhm.
All right, so I'll start. Let me know if the images are small. I hope not. Everything
They
seems
are.
fine.
They're
They are?
small. Yeah,
They're
Got it.
small.
All right, I'll go back to preview then. Give you a moment again. All righty. Let's see. Any questions from Sandra or Alpha?
I don't have any questions, more so that I just have a comment, because, like you kind of like hit the nail on the head with the hammer. When you were talking about how it's interesting, that we take on these different characters, by the wigs we wear, and then have the different types of attitudes that go with them. We take it, and then some people don't, know how to go back into their own core personality with their hair, because we have these issues with hair. So I really like the way too that you're dealing with that topic, because that is a real topic to have a discussion, about. And we think a lot of times, like, why do we talk about, hair? But you can tell how people are spending their last $100, or that's a low bid, on weave or hair before they go buy groceries or something. So these are real societal issues, and I had thrown out a term about intergenerational and collective trauma, and that's kind of describing how, I'm not even going to claim legacies, but how we are shaped, between these intergenerational, traumas. And that's one of them that is a constant in narratives, with people taking on these whole different personalities.
Thank you for actually saying that. I always forget to talk about that part too. I always forget it. I don't know why. Hair actually did play a huge role in creating the character Tina, because hair culture is such a very unique topic. It's a political topic, it's a identity topic, it's a social topic, and in a very sensitive time where we're still constantly talking about cultural appropriation. We're still talking about how everyone wants to be Black, but they don't actually want to be Black. And the people that are Black are being harmed. till this day. I mean, the people that died recently as a Black person, and that's not excluding the Hispanic Latino community, the Asian community, is talking about a very specific topic that is constantly being ignored or being told that, oh, it's not a big deal. And, you know, I grew up having different hairstyles. I still do. I mean, in my dating life, people always say to me, you know, I swore you had a different hairstyle one time. And it's like, that's the normalcy that I exist in my life. So putting a wig on was important for the characters and for my future projects, because people really do observe us differently when we have different hairstyles, and we are treated starkly different for our hairstyles. All it is
Very
treated
true.
different.
I get treated very well with this hair.
Yeah. You know, Sandra, it goes for you too. When
Very
you have
well.
your hair cut short, it's going to be treated different.
Very
Oh,
well.
I know. I had very short hair before.
Yes.
I wanted to, if it's okay to comment, to make a couple comments if you were
Sure.
ready, LaKesha.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Um, First of all, the vulnerability that you show in this project is, I just really admire that. I think it's really important for, artists to tap into that, and you really definitely did that. And it's hard, it's really hard to put yourself out there like that. And then the other thing that struck me was when you said, maybe in one of the first or second pictures where you were, or Tina's wearing the wig with the curly hair, and you said that's how, society wants her to look. That's how she'll be accepted, in the mainstream world or the white world, or whatever you meant by that. And that really struck me as really just a very important thing for people to know and to understand.
Yeah. I guess this transitions to the first series project I never thought I would actually accomplish. This is more of documentary. It's a little bit mixture of conceptual, but more of the documentary perspective. This is Amazon Natural Look, and formerly Academy. It's a natural hair salon on the south side of Chicago. I believe they're still over on 55th near State. And I was trying to find places. I was originally trying to get into CPS actually, and it didn't work out. So a professor told me, what are you going to do now? What other topics do you have? And I said, well, I wanted to focus on hair. Hair has been a huge part of my life. Hair is my identity, is a portion of my identity. And I like talking about it. So he said, well, do it. Like every other professor, they just said, just do it. So I wrote a couple of letters. I found a natural hair salon. Actually, what happened is that I got my hair done by one of the hairstylists at the salon. And I spoke to them a summer ago about collaborating. Nothing did happen because I just was focused. It was at the same time that AI happened, the incident with AI, the whole entire accreditation actually was at that same time. So I stopped caring about photography. I was just trying to figure out what I was going to do with my personal incident, things that were happening in my personal life, but also what was happening in my academic life. And when I started at Columbia, I transitioned over to focusing on hair, and I decided to contact the hairstylist again. And she put me in contact with the owner, the co-owner and founder of the salon and the business. And it just went from there. They let me come in. I was going there I think sometimes I would go there it started with 1 day a week, and then it transitioned to 3 times out of the week while working a semi-full-time job and being in school full-time. So I proposed that I want to understand this portion of hair culture, but also to honor this lifestyle that many women of color put themselves in for business purposes, for identity purposes, but also just for full on taking care of hair. And I learned so much about this specific hair salon and the incredible woman that work under this hair salon, especially Nadra and Amazon Smiley, because they educate you so much on the importance of Black hair, the importance of if you want to do natural hair or if you want to do artificial hair. Like, they gave you the truth and they educated you on things that most people don't put the effort to even educate themselves on. They also presented what it means to have sisterhood and brotherhood in this academy, but also in the salon itself, and the observation of different characters within the Black community as well that came to just simply just get their hair done. So it was a challenging but very fun and educational experience of observing predominantly Black women and some Black men in this specific, some very small community. Um, I mean, Nadra and Amazon are low-key very legendary women in the hair world and hair industry, and I hope that they get more hype than they have right now. I'm hoping that it goes bigger and better for them, because they are definitely legacies and they're innovators that exist that most people don't even know about. They actually created some of the products that are now being consistently used in different hair salons in the Chicagoland area and also in other places around those states. So I'll go ahead with the images.
There was a culture of hair shows, that was big.
Yeah.
During, I don't know if they're still doing these huge hair shows, and you mentioned Vegas, and people would just go to those for the new style and the new clothes and the competition, and they had even made these movies,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Poetic Justice, remember?
yeah, I actually grew up. I can't remember when I watched it, but there was one hair show that they did a documentary on, and I remember it because there was one white guy that did the
It
most.
was in the Chris Rock documentary.
No. This is a
No?
contemporary one. It was
Oh,
something like
okay.
from the early 2000s, I believe. I can't remember what it was. It was a hair competition in Atlanta, and they had all these different well-known hairstylists. It wasn't for natural hair. It was for artificial, superficial types of hairstyles. The ones where you had the perm press and the helicopters on your head, everything. And so they
It's more like
they
a hair
did-
art show.
it was a hair art show, but it was majorly a competition. It was literally like going to a fashion show because they had to do all this unique type of stuff. It's the most outrageous thing I had ever seen, I think, as either a teenager or early 20-something-year-old. And I remember watching that, and that was a huge influence, because I didn't realize that like people do this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, people actually go to conventions to go do competitive, like standard, like have a model walk down the walk runway and you clip their hair into the hairstyle that you want. Like, that was part of the documentary, is watching a guy do that. It was hilarious, but so culturally profound for me at a young age. And then, of course, Chris Rock too. Chris Rock gave a nice, unique lens on understanding. It was a little bit too comedic for me, in my opinion, but it definitely educated more on understanding where we got the whole entire, where the heck are we getting this hair from in the first place, and who the heck is allowing us to cut their hair to get it. So yeah, those two documentaries itself did have a huge influence on my obsession on hair culture and how hair culture is part of my identity. Because I mean, in reality, I remember the times when I couldn't figure out what to do with my hair. I remember the first time I shaved my hair off, and how people reacted in negative and positive perspectives was tremendously outrageous, in my opinion. It was ridiculous. I had people not want to talk to me because they saw me one time with long straight hair, and it was like, oh, you look like a boy now. I don't want to talk to you. It was weird. And that was a huge life lesson that made me realize that people would treat you a certain way based off your hair.
Yeah.
Based off how you present yourself with your hair too. It was weird. It was, in my opinion, I view it as now funny, and I don't tolerate people being stupid, but I definitely have experienced different perspectives and have also just observed different perspectives on people. Texturism is a huge issue in our community. And
Could you explain what
texture-
texturism is for those who don't know?
texturism is similar to colorism, is basically how your hair is texturized. So when I say texturized, if it has crinkles, if it's straight, if it's curly, if it's zigzaggy, that actually puts you on a pedestal of how you'll be treated, which is basically heavily rooted to colorism, and which is heavily rooted to white supremacy ideologies, which is the straighter or loosely curl your hair is, the more acceptable you'll be to society. And then add the skin tone narrative to it, then you're gonna be either considered more approachable or not, or it literally layers you to say that, oh, this person might be more nicer or more fun or more kind to you compared to a person with kinky, short, curly hair that is sometimes not capable of being moisturized all the time. So
Yeah.
texturism itself is, I'm horrible at giving proper definitions, but I could
You did a
definitely
great job.
thank you. I could definitely recommend the person that educated me on it. Erica Hart was the person. She has the link for it, but Erica Hart shared it for Black History Month, of a person that has a long, knowledgeable understanding of texturism itself and how it's heavily rooted in white supremacy. And yeah, so people that observe your hair, people will literally observe you and treat you a certain way for your hair. And that's how I was heavily influenced on understanding hair, because it affects me every day. I literally sometimes get concerned. Part of my concerns is like, well, should I present my hair a more appropriate way for an interview or for a presentation for certain people? Am I going to be treated a certain way because of my hair?
The word is professional. And
Yeah.
mind you, California, not even 2 years ago, just passed and made into legislation that, natural hair, what a conversation to have in a legislative, and pass that law that they can't discriminate us about with our hair, and the code.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna ask me something. Yeah.
No, I was agreeing with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's outrageous. Is we sit here and there are laws that state for us to say we cannot be discriminated, when it's just common sense that you shouldn't discriminate someone on their hair.
Yeah.
But I see Tom or Katie with dreadlocks that naturally is not actually going to appear in their hair, but they found a way to make dirt build up in their hair.
Right.
That's the normalcy, and they could be more accepted by society because they are white, and that is a huge issue. That is a
Get a
very
job.
huge issue. Yeah.
Good job with those dreadlocks.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's outrageous, but I'll show you the images.
Yeah.
And then any other questions? Actually, to answer your question that Alpha asked earlier, so with the process of it, how I presented my proposal to this business was that just let me be your shadow. I'm not here to impose anything. The only time I'll only ask certain questions when I need to get a very specific type of style or aesthetic or image that I want to get. But I just want to observe and learn and photograph. That was what I stated to them. I just want to be the fly on the wall that photographs you guys. And every once in a while, I'll take a little bit more control to do beautiful images of these group of wonderful people. What you see for the first image is a woman that was actually going to an event with Oprah and Michelle Obama. I don't know for sure if this was for Becoming. I'm trying to remember when Becoming came out, to be honest. But there is something that Michelle Obama had did, and Oprah Winfrey decided to do an event in the Chicagoland area. It was like one of the biggest, most expensive events ever. And she came in last minute to get her hair done by one of the teachers, the instructor slash stylist. And I was talking to her and I was like, can I photograph you? And so I asked her, she was holding a magazine, and I asked her, I said, hey, do you mind just being a little bit dramatic and make it seem like how intent you are for the magazine? And also your excitement for Michelle Obama. Because, you know, you're always going to find a Michelle Obama memorabilia somewhere in the hair salon. So coincidentally, we found a magazine that was next to her for Michelle Obama and her book, and how she was so excited to like spend her evening. She like found a babysitter for her children and everything to just go listen to Obama and Oprah Winfrey talk about the book. So what you see is her sitting in a salon chair, and she's having her locks get dried up. They're expediting the drying process of her locks. And she's just mesmerized with the story that Michelle Obama is going to be telling, reiterating towards her in the audience. And then it's another photo of the young woman that was officially done with her hair, and there's a bright light emanating on her skin, but also on her locks. And she's taking a look at herself in the reflective mirror, small mirror pouch, and checking out her eyebrows, her face to see if everything is okay, if she's presentable enough. She had dressed up really nice for the event. That's how excited she was. And yeah, one part that I emphasize for all of the images is that there's a lot of colors. And I thought that was a unique thing. And it actually was a huge debate in my critiques, because some people were asking, like, well, why are there so many colors? Why are there so many colors? And colors just plays a huge role on identity. But, well, let me rephrase that again. Color plays a huge role in how we present ourselves to society. And it also just looks great on our skin tone, variations of colors. And so it was very unique to see the salon have very bold, contrasty colors reflected on each different wall. And they were closely related to the Pan-Africanism flag too, and also just to Black empowerment as well. They were complementary towards one another, and they were complementary towards the skin tones of the woman that was working in the studio, but also in the salon as well. The image you see right now is, I forgot her name all of a sudden. Yaka, I believe. It's been so long since I worked on this project, and I actually bumped into her one time at a former job I was working at, and that's how I found out that the academy was closed down. But she is one of the instructors, a very nice, cheery person, laid back. She brought her mother in that you see in the chair, and she's showing the student how to do finger coils in short hair. And you see a little bit of moisture from the water and the products that was in the woman's hair, and the mother is looking over to the side while the teacher tells the person how to properly do a twist in the hair. The next image you see is one of the clients. So I was constantly bouncing around. I predominantly stayed over in the academy, but I did bounce around a lot towards the salon area. So I had a few times where I was able to actually photograph and publish some of these clients for different hairstylists in the salon. And so this lovely lady and I was chatting up, and she was asking about my background. I was asking about her background. And I said, can I just photograph you? And so she was super nervous, as every stranger rightfully should feel. She was trying to find the best pose, and I'm not the type of I really don't like when people just smile at me, like, stop it. So I told her the truth. I said, I just want to photograph you. I don't need you to smile. I just want you to look like yourself when you're getting your hair twisted up. And so she relaxed a little bit, and I just kept pressing the shutter button to see what will happen, because I didn't want just a pose smile. It was more of a control when it comes to people smiling. It's forcing a fake person in a way. So this was a bit more authentic and satisfactory for me as the photographer of observing a woman that was in mid-conversation, but also just trying to be comfortable in front of the camera next to a stranger. And so this is Nadra and her husband. And Nadra is washing another client's hair. Is actually her best friend that came through. She was getting her hair done for a nice price. And they were having a conversation. And so Nadra is the co-founder and the innovator, the additional innovator of the company itself and the academy. And she was chatting up with her husband about events that they wanted to do or business related work that they were doing at that time. I did take a tour with them a couple of times towards, like, I was slowly trying to transition myself to really get comfortable as a invisible photographer. So I was sometimes even like taking a bus ride or a car ride with them. I even went with them when they brought more products to a hair salon over in the, well, the only Black owned hair salon in the Chicagoland area, for my knowledge, to bring more products to be sold at that business. And then this is the lovely, I believe Yvonne, actually. I should actually have these names out. I'm sorry, I don't remember people's names really well. I'm not good at that. This is the second main instructor of the academy. Incredible woman. She was actually the woman that was doing the hair of the woman that was going to the Obama convention and Oprah Winfrey convention. And so she is a very unique character because she is a vegan, she's holistic, and she just knows how to do good hair. She's really good at it. And so I spent a lot of time with her and had some good conversations with her about understanding hair, and just how she taught the students to be good at things was incredible. She was extremely patient. I mean, all of them were extremely patient, but she was extremely patient. She had a very chill sense of humor. And whenever someone asked her a curious question about her vegan lifestyle, she's very calm and patient about educating people. She enjoyed being an educator in hair, an educator in general for the woman that was there. This is another client. He's taken a serious look at the camera woman, which was me. And it was a very interesting conversation with him. He was a photographer himself, and he was trying to give me advice, unsolicited advice that I had already knew about. And it was just such an awkward moment because I was photographing him, and then he was like, "Oh, do you have a contract?" And it was just so awkward because he was trying to be, I guess he was trying to be helpful, but he was actually sounding like a little bit rude most of the time. But he was an interesting character. Let's leave it like that. So the person that's doing the hair in the back is Ashley, I believe. And she was one of the few people I didn't photograph, but the few photographs I did get of her, it was a rare miracle. Very quiet, very mature, just focused on her business. And it was like the clients kind of mirrored the hairstylist in a way. It was very unique observing that. So with Ashley's clients, they were all super quiet. They were very antisocial most of the time. And on most occasions, they didn't want to be bothered. It's very rare, but they will let me photograph their hair. They will be like, "Yeah, I'll let you photograph my hair, but there's a good chance you can't photograph my face. And if you do get my face, you can't publish it." And so this was a rare occasion, but also a very interesting experience because he did reflect a little bit of her reclusive, but also antisocial personality in a way. And then this is another client. She will receive, what you see is her posing towards me, and you see a vibrant orange reddish painting on the walls. And she's just seeming innocent. She just got her hair done. She's happy. She paid her way. And now she's just trying to leave out.
So would you say that like we're dealing with the intergenerational trauma, because I had a different experience in the, when I was growing up with hair, you know, in the kitchen, getting ready for school for Easter. I had a totally, I wasn't introduced to the culture of the hair salon, you know, or the beauty shop.
Mhm.
I was introduced to the kitchen.
Right.
And then again, those are other kinds of traumas that we experience with making ourselves beautiful, you
Mhm.
know, or grooming ourselves. But would you also say that when you're entering this in this space, there's a lot of exchange of, like the barbershop, you know, these guys are always, you know, hitting on topics, they're always talking, they're always sharing. It's a place of learn, you know, information, you
Mhm.
know, sharing, especially regular customers that they know them, you know, and then they come in. Would you say that there's a lot of these conversations and education going on in these spaces?
Absolutely. There's always some type of, there's not everyone was talking. One thing I did notice is that it wasn't loud all the time. You know, you heard conversations, but it wasn't like your traditional fully male barbershop. What I basically I've learned that men gossip way more than women. um what I observed from this is that they do have conversations, they do talk a decent amount, but is in selected groups is very low level. It's not too raunchy, not too exciting, but there is an energy there. There's an energy that makes you have a level of comfort. You're welcome, basically. You're welcome to be there one way or another. Um, Going to the relation of intergenerational, but also just trauma. You know, it's really interesting because I didn't have the salon experience at first. I grew up in the kitchen, in the living room, on my auntie's lap, being told if I move one more time, I'm gonna get slapped or get burned.
Don't flinch or you're gonna get burned.
Yeah, like I was lucky enough, I'll emphasize that, to get that experience. So having the salon experience, it was definitely pacing around on new field ground where you see someone trying to dismantle a stigma in a way. And it's really unique because they did start in the kitchen. Like that was a thing. That's how they started their business. It was in the living room of Amazon's home. That's how they started. And then she transitioned to slowly getting her own business and getting her own space to bring people together to work under her. Um, is very unique. It's definitely, it's like almost trying to dismantle generational trauma, but also create generational growth at the same time, because they only do natural hair, they only do natural aesthetics or process that helps. And yes, obviously you got your chemical based products and whatsoever, but it's meant to grow your hair in the most safest routes. And you know, they did, like I saw them do dyes and everything, but it's always just natural, protective. Let's emphasize that too, protective hairstyles to help the hair grow, to help protect your hair from damage and breakage and everything else. So yeah. And then this was the lovely students for, it was 2000 and I think 19. No, actually, I'm completely wrong. It was 2018 because that's when I had first transferred to Columbia. It was 2018 in the fall when I photographed these lovely ladies, and they all just unique characters. They all were funny. This was the portion where they were a little bit too loud. They were a little bit raunchy because they were always cracking up with each other one way or another. I remember a couple of times where they actually ate together. Like that was a thing. It was break time, they would bring food together or they would go to the restaurants together to have lunch. And they were always chatting up. They were always challenging each other. If there was a little bit of a beef, it was settled in a very mature way, or they literally separate themselves from anything. And they were all just trying to be extremely patient with one another and more importantly, be patient with themselves because they were all new. And then this lovely little girl, I remember I decided to photograph the hairstyles too. I can't remember for sure if this was done by a student. I believe this was done by a student. Yes, it was done by a student because she was constantly asking me questions while I was photographing her getting her hair done. She was a very smart, unique, talkative girl. And I remember watching her get her hair done. She was asking about my background. She was asking about color complementaries. We talked about color theory, the whole shebang. And I remember saying, well, she was like, and then at the end, after she got her hair done, she said, are you going to photograph me? That was it. That was it. She said, are you going to photograph me? And I was like, yeah, I guess, sure. And so I set up some lightings for her to observe not only her hair, but also her complexion, because, you know, it's a unique beauty that everyone craves for in a way. They crave to have youth, they crave to have clear skin, and she is the epitome of that at that very moment of good hair, but also good skin. And then this lovely lady, I got permission to photograph her while she was one of the few, I think she actually has stayed from lunch break. She wanted to practice more on her hair, and she was doing, I believe she was doing some type of twist in the hair with I don't remember the name of these lovely tools that you use for the curling, but she was doing different braids, and then she would twist it up with additional weave into the twisters. And so observing these small intimate moments was just as important as the group moments and the teaching moments, because they all had a goal in the end. They all had a goal for themselves. They all had a goal for what they wanted to do with their certifications and the lessons and the investments that they made of being in this academy. And this was kind of like the poster child example of what it looks like when you're just focused on your hair care goals. And then this lovely student, she was such a sweetheart. We constantly had small intimate conversations, and basically I asked to photograph her. She was definitely a very unique character. She was actually the intern of She was an intern of one of the instructors at the academy. So she was working under them while also learning how to do hair at the same time. And coincidentally, it was a happy accident where a rainbow popped up from the flash. So, yeah. And then this is the lovely person that connected me to the whole entire academy and salon, and also my former hairstylist. Her name was Yvette. And so, right, there we go. That's why I couldn't get it right. This is Yvette, and the other woman with the short hair that's one of the instructors is Yaka, I believe. And so Yvette I didn't get an opportunity to photograph her so much, but I got the opportunity to get this one portrait of her right before she left, because she was the one that connected me to this whole entire small, unique world. And she's also just a wonderful person in general and does great hair, in my opinion. And as you see, they all wear vibrant colors. They all have something is always vibrant on their skin tone. Something's always popping out of their personality, out of their body. And it's always contrasting with what is around them in their environment as well. They always have something unique going on with their style, their aesthetic, their personality, one way or another. And then this is the legend, Amazon Smiley herself. Anytime I ever ask anyone about Amazon, they always have something incredibly to say about her background as a hairstylist, as an educator, as an innovator. She was this very kind, quiet. I'll say quiet because she definitely, when she comes in the room, she doesn't come making people be attentive towards her, but you have to give her that respect. Her presence is important. But she was always a very quiet, just handle my business whatsoever. And very kind, very motivational too, towards any and everyone. And I mean, I remember one story where they said that she went to Ghana to teach people how to do hair. And I was like, how do you do that? How do you do that? How do you go to your own native land and tell someone how to do braids or locks or something? And it was very unique hearing that, because she took traditional historical hairstyles and was revolutionizing it for it to be adaptable, but also to be acceptable of all backgrounds of Black people, of the Black diaspora in general. And so it's actually correlated to that intergenerational aspect, because she took her experience from a past and also from a present time and incorporate it for a modern time, then transition it over to a contemporary time. And so that's why I give her the respect that she deserves. That's why I view her as a legend, because her and her daughter are her and her daughters, because there actually is a third woman that's part of the business, but she lives in, I believe, in Hawaii the last time I heard. But they're just legendary in ways, and they all come from different generations that gives new perspectives and ideas and ways to be creative.
And with that, we still have to understand that colonialization happened in the diaspora, the African diaspora worldwide. And there's a lot of things that are going on here with that kind of, trauma happened on the continent. It happens in London. It happens where we are, that we emulate or have been made to emulate, and change our hair, our skin. So those are, all things where she would go back home or go back to the continent to teach.
Yeah. And it's definitely dismantling that colonialism that exists in us. Because I always believe that we all have some form of, all people have some form of ingrained white supremacy, ingrained anti-Black or anti-whatsoever in them, because it's a nature versus nurture moment. Our environment set us up to believe that only certain things should go a certain way, how we should present ourselves should go a certain way. And so constantly questioning and dismantling that within even simply just how you do your hair is very revolutionary, but also is challenging the system that was forced on us in the first place, within colonialism, within education, within just being at home and what we observe in general. And yeah, it also helped approach my strategies of what I'm exactly trying to present within these images. I always had people say to me, well, you're taking images and they're not a meaning. It's like, well, it's not just about the meaning, it's about what I have to say too. It's also what I put next to it. Well, do I put text? And so some of these images actually were supposed to have text with them. And but it's mostly in a exhibition style where the text is incorporated, because people, we all, when we see images, we just we look first. That's the first thing we do. And colors might help make us pay attention to things. How people look at the camera or at whatever they're looking at might actually make us want to observe and stare at it more. But text and also verbal recordings help a lot too. So this whole entire project, on this small project on this natural salon itself, is prolific and, in my opinion, a beginning start for what's next on understanding hair culture, but how hair culture is part of the Black identity and how it has heavily influenced other identities in general.
All right, thank you so much, LaKesha.
Thank you.
Yes, that was amazing. Thank you. And thank you for sharing more about, just Black culture and our history, especially around hair and how important it is to our identities. All right, so my last question that I had for both of you all was, do you believe there to be an intersection between art and social justice? And do you individually feel responsible to showcase this intersection in your work, especially living and working in Chicago? Sandy, you can go ahead and answer.
Just absolutely, no doubt about it. Being a photographer, it's just to consider the power of art to open people's hearts and create connections that will make life better, or try to make life better, or advance us as people. In just about every space I've worked in, I see the intersection of history and legacy, education and the arts, public planning, architecture, just all aspects of civic life are reflected in people's environments. And I see that in photography too. I also feel that our city can't really be whole and really prosper if we don't take care of the whole city, end to end. And it's just, there's good work being done everywhere, and we just can't abandon, areas. We have to support them. We have to pour resources in. We don't have to always reinvent the wheel. There are things happening and they need to be supported, like they are supported in more affluent areas of the city. But I really feel like you can't feel like us and them. We have to feel like we're in this together. And so that's kind of what I'm always thinking about. And just so that people can be freer to experience the potential that they want to fulfill for their own lives.
Thank you, Sandra, for that answer. Thank you. LaKesha?
I 200% agree. Social justice does play a huge role in art, and is vice versa. I think that we are constantly trying to isolate art when art actually just helps us analyze things more and more in a humane perspective. And so combining these two together, it helps us to really educate people while also finding a way to be sort of entertained. You could sit there and observe and appreciate something and love and enjoy it, but you also could be highly educated on something that is very important in our lives to know. It also helps brings communities together that either refuse or did not know that they needed to work together in general.
Yes, thank you so much, LaKesha, for that response. All right, Alpha, go ahead and.
Great, well, thank you for this is our first installment of our talks. It's a forum that Adero and I felt that was very important to do during this curatorial fellowship. I threw out terms of intergenerational and collective trauma. I talked about intergenerational transmission, intergenerational culture, and why it's important that we bring this approach to this, curatorial fellowship. I attended conferences on museum practice, and it is one of our charges is to welcome generation X, Y, and Z to the conversation. to museums, to art galleries, to art centers. We all agree that we must embrace diversity at all levels to best serve our communities. Creating age diversity and leadership by bringing in more directors in the 20s, 30s, and 40s is often overlooked avenue for understanding millennial visitors, challenging stale ways of thinking, increasing racial and ethnic diversity, and driving our organizations forward. It's a must. It's something that is part of my charge. We're reaching a lot of aged artists like myself are reaching 65, and the baton has to be passed. And when we talk about the intergenerational transmission of culture and cross-generational transfers like this, you inherit it. The younger our X, Y, and Zs are inheriting occupational status, educational attainment, earnings, and wealth. It is very important that we transfer this, that we create these platforms, and share that. So that is my message. It's not our outgoing message, but this is one of 4 conversations. This is the first installment. And I want to thank both of you for joining our conversation.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys around. You're gonna
All
say
right.
something, Sandy?
Oh, I did just want to say that I agree with you that it's really important for people to be able to be with each other of, just in every kind of diverse way. And age is one of those things we don't always think about, but I really do think that, whatever legacy people have, it's really important to share it. And so I'm really happy that you took that approach with this particular talk. And if there's any way I can be helpful, I am happy to do so.
And I will call you. And I look forward to your installation and work being presented this summer at the Evanston Arts Center.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, you both did so phenomenally. This was so amazing. Thank you so much. It was just so great. It went longer
Thanks
than
for
expected,
having us.
but it was great.
Sorry for the long time.
These documentations will be on our website. And then during the installation, there'll be reel-to-reel where visitors that are coming in will listen to these talks and these conversations. So, so thank you for adding to the experience.
Thank you. I feel like I should have
you so
prepared
much.
more, but I hope it worked out okay on my end.
Oh, it's perfect.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was so
perfect.
Thank
good.
you so much. It was
Thank
great
you.
to be with all of you.
Yes, yes, and to be social a little bit, but be safe.
Yes.
Great.
Yes. All right. Have a wonderful day, ladies.
All right,
Thank
bye.
you. Bye, everybody. Bye.